Now, as we speak, we know that student protests have been ongoing in the country for almost 2 weeks now, and these protests have been brought to the steps of the union buildings, Parliament, and it's even been addressed in Parliament during a plenary session. Now, your company has conducted research or a survey into what students are feeling in South Africa. Introduce us to the survey.
Yes, we actually launched a survey to 4 universities in the month of September. So it was a few weeks before the protest actually started up. And we asked them a few questions, one of them being obviously that what do they feel that the fee that they're paying for a tertiary is too high? So that was one of the questions, of which 62% responded that yes, they feel that that is too high, and that also it is, as a result of the fees being so exorbitant, it is one, a barrier to entry for people trying to get into tertiary institutions, but also, and which is obviously what is more important for them, that it is stopping them from advancing in their tertiary career, because often they stated that they never know will they be in class tomorrow because of the fees that are hanging over their heads, and they're not sure how they're going to pay for those fees.
What's interesting is that this research conducted in September already gave you an insight into what unfolded in the country in October, because of course all of these issues were then brought into the national spotlight.
Yes, yeah, I think that students must have been feeling that this already for quite a long time. So what's been happening at least over the last 2 weeks, I think has been a long time coming. This is not a new problem. We have had pockets of incidents at other institutions. If I remember correctly, the TUT, the Technology University of Tshwane, they had similar protests at the beginning of the year and beginning of last year as well. So this has been an issue that has been in the system for quite a while, but I think it's the first time that we're seeing all the universities, all the students, all at one time coming together and saying, this is enough, we cannot afford this anymore.
Could you give us an indication of possible alternatives or solutions that may have been highlighted through the survey?
Well, I think what we need to do is, look, obviously government has now proposed a solution now of 0% increases for next year. But we need to look more long term, because obviously that in itself is not sustainable. So we need to look at, one, government needs to go back to the drawing board and look at their funding model for tertiary institutions, because that has changed substantially over the years. And I know for sure that the subsidies that they were giving to tertiary institutions has decreased over the years. So the question is, why has that decreased? And then they need to find the money then to rechannel that money that was there. So that would be the one element of it where government needs to come in and play a role. Other element is corporates themselves. Corporates, state-owned entities, all of us need to come on board and say, look, we need these students to go through university because that's the skills that we need in our own areas. So we need to look at corporate social investment and see, is there any way that we can channel some funds to assist these students? For example, big corporates that need engineers, how are they going to get engineers if they're not at least helping students to go through into engineering? And then another element of this is universities themselves need to probably look at marketing strategies. Where do they firstly save costs? I know, for example, at WITS currently, one of the issues that's still outstanding, or that was still outstanding on Sunday night, was they're outsourcing quite a lot of their basic services like cleaning. Is that the best possible solution for the university? But then also, what are they doing in terms of attracting other investments? For example, we at PPS, they approach us quite often because we deal mostly with graduate professionals, and we help them with things like refurbishments. But they cannot depend on obviously one company to do that. They need to get a whole lot of companies to help them, because if they save money on refurbishments, they will have extra money which they can filter through to the students. And then I think the one element that has not been stated well enough in all of these protests, the students themselves who are benefiting through NAFSAS, through the national scheme. Most of them, I read with shock on Sunday that only about 60,000 of them are actually bothering to repay their loans, whereas about 400 odd of them, they have benefited with that funding, but are now not paying that back. So they also have a responsibility to themselves and to the nation to pay back those loans. So the people who are running NAFSAS itself, they need to improve their own debt collecting mechanism and say, how do we ensure that if somebody has been through the system and it was a loan, that that loan is paid back? And they need to tighten that up, clean it up so that it is almost foolproof, so that we can increase the number of people that are actually paying it back. So the culture among students themselves also has to change, that I can't just benefit and demand, and then when I benefit, then I don't pay back what I promised to pay back in the first instance. And then the last people for me that I think need to come on board with this is the banks. A lot of students did indicate that they are willing to take loans to further their studies, but then the requirements for them to get those loans is quite stringent, and also the interest rate on there, I think that a lot of them who have gotten loans before compared to the interest rate is very unaffordable. And that just then creates this cycle that doesn't end, because if I start working and my first job with my first paycheck, I have this insane loan that I need to pay back from when I was in school, then I myself will never be able to start paying for or at least start saving for my own kids' education, which means in a few years' time I will be back with a protest because now I can't afford to pay for my own kids' education. So it's so everybody, absolutely everybody, including the students themselves, need to come to the party and say, how do we lighten the load? And everybody has to take the responsibility.